It's believed he once described big city media commentators as, quote, smart aleck, arrogant, quiche-eating, Chardonnay-drinking, pinky, finger-pointing, snobbery fart blossoms. Luckily, I don't eat quiche, nor do I drink Chardonnay. So joining me now in studio on the hui is the Right Honourable Winston Peters. E karawini tana tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Thank you for your time. Hope you like the introduction. Let's start with your campaign slogan for this year's election. Let's take our country back. Who are we taking the country back from?
No, it's let's take back our country.
Okay, where are we taking the country back from then?
Because what's happened here, you've seen so many changes that were never mandated, never campaigned on, never part of the Labour Party or any other manifesto, but they're out there changing them secretly. The school curriculum, for example, in science, getting rid of all the physics and biology and going into woke, virtue signalling, sexual education and all those things. No parent was told that. And I can go to area after area, or for example, our health system. When every Maori who's sick wants to be health treatment now, no, they're changing the name, but they're not giving them the treatment. Okay. And some people are waiting months and months and sometimes 8 years.
A couple of things I want to pick up on there. First of all, woke. What does woke mean?
I woke up yesterday, I know more than you.
well, I've looked at the definition.
No, not me, that's them. They're not me. But I see people who, all of a sudden they discovered something and they think that everybody else knows nothing at all.
Well, I looked for a definition of it from the Oxford Dictionary, and it says aware of social and political issues.
Precisely.
Like racism. Well, that means that people like you and Shane Jones are woke, aren't you?
No, with the greatest respect, doesn't mean that at all.
But you're aware of social and political issues, and you talk about racist policies.
But this is a description that you're reading as though that is the, how shall I say, the defined example of it. No, It's not. Many of us see woke as people who just discovered something yesterday, then all of a sudden are telling some of us who've been on the road working this battle and a mission in life to turn things around, that we've always been aware of it. For example, they suggest, for example, that we don't care about the environment. We don't care about the climate. Well, for some of us with a background that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, that is an insult. Of course we care about the environment.
Okay, so it's a disparaging, almost pejorative word for people who think that some are too easily upset about these issues. Yeah. And new to the game. So isn't your new candidate, Casey Costello, one of those? Because she talks on behalf of Hobson's Pledge about exactly the same kind of thing.
I know. She's setting out in authoritative form what it was all about in the Treaty of Waitangi on the 6th of February in 1840. And as somebody that had great admiration from a very young age and studied the works and the books of the greatest Maori that there's ever been to Parliament, he got his law degree in 2 years flat, a doctor of literature, Master of Arts. This is way back in the start of the last century. And he set out in 1922 exactly what the circumstances are of the Treaty of Waitangi. I believe him and not amateur hour now.
Okay, all right. So, but I just want to talk about Hobson's Pledge, because that's who Casey Costello has for a long time represented and has been a spokesperson for. The whole Hobson's Pledge bases itself upon the commentary of one person, Colenso, 50 years after the event, He iwi tahi tatou. What does that mean for you,
well,
He iwi tahi tatou?
Well, I'm not here to speak for Hobson's Pledge other than say I'm delighted to have Casey Costello. This is someone who is the deputy, this #2 person in the police.
She's a candidate for your party.
Yes, that's right. I'm delighted she's joined our party. Because here's somebody with a similar background from, like me, part Ngāti Wai, from the northern family, very famous. You may not know this, but they were one of the best sporting families this country's ever seen. Their grandmother was New Zealand table tennis champion. Their sisters and all these people with fantastic name. I know the Davises. I went to school with some of them, you see, that's why. Now, my point is here, that comes from the same tribe as mine, as well, same iwi, but the point is she's pointing out, as a senior former police person with quite a deal of experience, that these things that are being said by the tamaheres of this world, and all these people trying to rewrite the Treaty of Waitangi, these 3 clauses, is just false. And I say so as well as a lawyer, and I said so the moment I saw this happening in 1987. The first lawyer that got up and said, hang on, if nobody in the British Commonwealth, or at the time, the British Empire in UK, and all of those places of the UK, was in partnership with the Queen back on the 5th of February 1840, how come the Maori were, constitutionally speaking, 2 days later? And I don't want the Maori people to be sidelined on this issue, because I can tell you what I'm seeing here. The worst people who will suffer from this program of trying to rewrite the treaty business or the treaty history is Maori, and I see it. They're not getting the housing, they're not getting the jobs, they're not getting the health, and they're not getting the education.
Okay.
That's what I've been about all my life.
And you want to remove references to things like treaty principles. What are the treaty principles you want to remove?
Well, I love that question that you've asked. Can you possibly explain what they are? Because I've gone to universities, I've had all sorts of people.
No, I'm asking you.
Like Margaret Mutuana, because I don't believe there are any principles in the way they say they are.
But if you're trying to remove them, and you don't know what they are...
That's been my challenge. They are teaching principles of the Treaty of Waitangi.
I'll tell you what they are then.
Let me tell you. They are teaching these principles at the Treaty of Waitangi at universities, and I've been here to challenge them and said to them, excuse me, how come the other universities got different principles?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what they are then. Tino Rangatiratanga, which is Article 2 of the treaty. So you want to remove one of the principles, which is in Article 2.
Now, what do you think that means?
What do I think that means? You're the politician. You're the one that's put the hand up. You want to go back into Parliament. You want to remove the principle.
No. Your people knows what Tino Rangatiratanga means. You know what it means? The chief's word is gospel. Not everybody, just the chief. And if we had then at the time co-governance going on back in 1840, if we had co-governance going on then which chief's word was gospel if they differed? You see, it doesn't stack up.
Well, co-governance is a means to an end. The end is Tino Rangatiratanga.
No, the end's the means. No, the ends of this plan that these people prescribe is separatism and a separate vote.
Oh, it's
and
not.
two systems.
You know it's not.
Oh,
this is the thing
it is. That's my point.
This is the thing that I actually don't get. I actually don't think you actually believe that. I really don't. Because
with respect.
But when you did ka awatea, Tino Rangatiratanga and Rangatiratanga was referred to specifically in that document. It was also referred to a lot by one of the key authors of ka awatea, by Te Rangiho. So I actually don't think you believe
excuse me, I'm the minister that brought in ka awatea.
No, I know.
And you know what it meant?
What?
You know what the message of ka awatea was? We can make it with unity and blood, sweat and tears. That's the reason why we sold it. That's how we sold it. I know ka awatea. I was the author of it.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And
it mentioned Rangatiratanga, and one of the authors, after the release of ka awatea, spoke specifically about the aspiration to achieve Tino Rangatiratanga, which is one of the very principles that you talk about wanting to remove.
Look, I was there, you weren't. Let me tell you. No, you come to the wrong house, mate. I'll tell you something here. I got the Maori Queen and every Maori chief down because that's what Tino Rangatiratanga means. But you've got a whole lot of people asserting their Tino Rangatiratanga, and they've got no capacity for that at all. And I am seeing it everywhere. As they say, far too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
We're going to talk more about policy, particularly announced over the weekend at your conference. We'll have more from Winston Peters, the leader of New Zealand First, after the break. When you started the party in '93, what were you trying to achieve and what's changed?
Look, I've been a member for a long time of the National Party, and I joined it for reasons that, for example, Sir James Henare told me he joined the National Party as well. And he said the critical reason was that the Labour Party had a rule 242, which was the party's conscience is your conscience. And he said no one believes in freedom could go down that path, and nor did I. So I'm a member of the National Party, and I slogged it out on the campaigns on the way through. In 1990, I did 25 marginal seats in that massive victory we had. And then I saw the National Party throw its manifesto in the rubbish bin and bring out the secret agenda that none of us never even knew about. And then we headed down the same path and we destroyed people's belief in democracy. That's how we ended up with MMP. People were sick and tired of first past the post and parties not keeping their promise. Now, as you know, David Long is my testimony for this. He was hijacked by Roger Douglas, and he says so. They just threw their manifesto in rubbish bin as well.
Okay.
And we did it again. So I started, I was there, and I was there with a guy that was on the Dominion Council many years ago on the National Party with me, and we said, look, if we can't turn this party around, we're going to have to start a party, and that's what we did.
And you did, and you were also very successful in 1996, winning all the Māori seats. Why then is someone who, and the party that they lead, that was so successful in the Māori seats, now looking to abolish those seats?
Because I campaigned in 1996 in all the Māori seats on the basis we can turn our circumstances around. If we believe in these things, that it's going to be hard work and it's going to be a lot of tears and a lot of sacrifice, but if we focus on what Māori really need, that's affordable housing, on ready access to health treatment as fast as possible, and on education escalators to take our young as far as they want to go if they're prepared to make the work. And the last thing, first world wages. That's what I sought to focus on. But here I am acting in the National Party, and I had a group of Maori members with me who completely forgot that what they were there for.
That's before 96, Winston. In 96, you had a mandate from Māoridom to act and represent their voice in Parliament. Now, you lost that mandate in 99, but now you want to abolish the seats. Is this simply because the personal has become political?
No, because, you see, I was the person also, and I've been accused of it, that did more to bring about the arrival of MMP in this country. There's been books about it, accusing me of it. But I brought it about because I wanted people to have a far better voice than a government in which I was when only having 39% of the vote and yet governing the country.
But don't people get a better voice by having a Māori electorate seat?
No, I'm talking
particularly about Māori issues.
I'm trying to finish my answer.
Education.
It's complex. It's complicated, like the movie says. Here's my point, Mr. Wilcox. Look, when we brought in MMP and the Commission said so, in time it'll prove to the Maori people that there will be no need for separate seats. Look, I was only one of 4 over since 1867. No, since 1867, only one of 4 Maori to ever get a general seat. Right? Now, so we're going into this election in 1996, and the Commission had said MMP will prove in time that there is no need for a separate franchise. And it has. There are 28% sometimes of Parliament now with Maori in them.
But the needs and issues for Māori still exist. I mean, we're talking about
them now. Of course they will
exist. So how can you get rid of the Māori seats when those issues haven't been addressed and there aren't equitable outcomes, which has led to things like Māori?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because the Maori seats will not deliver them. But the rest of us can, and we will.
They'll deliver the voice and the mandate for the people to be able to act on their and represent their interests to be able to deliver.
Well, can I ask you a few things? And I'll point to Maori members of Parliament. You tell me what they've delivered to Maori people. Because I know I've delivered a stack for the Maori people. Twice in my career, I've seen wages rise dramatically. Okay. Twice in my career, I've found serious increases in health budget. Twice in my career, I looked after the aged in this world. And twice in my career, I've been out in terms of education and brought about the biggest university intake for Maori ever in this country's history.
I want to talk about
and I can keep on talking for the next day about this on your program. And I hope one day you get me back so you people will know that those who do things and those who just talk.
I do want to talk about one of the other things that you want to deliver. You talked about a gang prison and to designate all gangs as terrorist organisations. Yeah. Given the amount of Māori who are in gangs, given the amount of Māori who are already in the corrections system, why would you want to set up a location that would be a recipe for extreme violence and a threat, actually, to people who would end up working in corrections when most of them, again, will be us?
What do you think's going on now? Excuse me. I've been to prisons for as a young lawyer and since that time as well. What on earth do you think's going on now? It's happening now, but a whole lot of people who are not part of the gangs are being recruited in there. And I know that every time this happens, there's a certain people in this country, a certain ethnic group, who are shamed every night on 6 o'clock news. That's the Maori people, and I want an end to it.
This sounds like it's going to be a gang gitmo. And the US experience shows us that's a massive mistake.
Can you not get a fix on this? That's what's happening now. We don't need to build a new prison. No. See, you come on, you've already made up your mind. This is an interview where you're going to find out facts. And here, let me tell you the fact here. Okay. We don't need a new prison at all. We just need to give the prison officers far more support, far greater reason for having good morale, and give them better wages and have more of them. We don't need to build a new prison. But I'll tell you what the result of my policies will be. You'll see a dramatic decline in prisons the real way. Because I've also said that if you don't want to go down that pathway, we're going to find you a 40-hour-week job. We're going to pay you properly. But that's the corollary. Take that choice or go down the narrow path. And I know out in the Maori world there are mothers and fathers who want that course rather than what we're seeing now. Perpetually getting worse and worse with no solutions and all this sort of woke nonsense about the conditions. I'm from a Maori place. I'm from a Maori school. And I can tell you now, we had everybody employed in all our neighbourhood.
I have to leave it there. You can see that, by the way. I'm shuffling my papers. Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate you coming on the programme.
Thank you very much.
I wish you the best for the election campaign.